The ship came down through the clouds of Earth with great care. Inside sat 5 of the most important beings in the galaxy. They were the council leaders of the Galactic Federation, and they had come to meet the humans for the first time in an official diplomatic visit. High Counselor pressed his face against the viewing window. His large purple eyes watched the blue and green planet grow bigger beneath them. His 4 thin arms shook a little as he gripped the armrests of his seat. He had read many reports about this world over the past several months. None of them had made him feel good about this mission. "Earth," he said in a soft voice. "The humans call it Earth, such a simple name for such a dangerous place." Beside him, Counselor clicked her mandibles together in a nervous pattern. She was from a race of insect-like beings with hard shells the color of polished copper. Her species was known for their analytical minds and their calm approach to problems, but even she seemed unsettled by what lay below them. "I have studied all the files we have on this world," she said. "This planet should not have life on it at all. The radiation from their sun is far too strong. The gravity is crushing compared to most inhabited worlds. The atmosphere contains a dangerously high level of oxygen, which is a fire hazard. And yet here we are, about to land on its surface." "And yet," said Counselor, "a being made mostly of floating gas held together by a thin membrane that shimmered in the light. Billions of creatures live here, including the humans, not just live but thrive. They have covered this planet with their cities and their machines." The 4th council member, a small blue creature named, made a worried sound that came from deep in his chest. His species communicated through colors as well as sounds, and right now his skin was a dark shade that indicated fear and anxiety. "Why did we agree to come here in person? We could have asked the humans to meet us on a neutral station. We could have conducted all our negotiations through long-range communications. Why did we put ourselves in danger like this?" "Diplomacy," said the 5th member, Counselor. She was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected light like a mirror. Her people were known for their wisdom and their long memories. "The humans asked us to visit there as a gesture of good faith. To refuse would have been an insult. They might have thought we considered ourselves too important to visit them. We must make friends with humans, not enemies." This was true, and everyone in the ship knew it. The humans had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, just 20 standard years ago. In the long history of the galaxy, that was barely a moment. And yet in that short time, they had already changed many things. They explored places no other species would dare to go. They built colonies on worlds that were too dangerous for anyone else to even consider. They seemed to have no fear of anything the universe could throw at them. And that made the other species of the galaxy very nervous indeed. The ship passed through the final layer of clouds, and the surface of Earth came into view. The council members looked down at green forests, blue oceans, and gray cities that spread across the landscape like metal spiderwebs. It looked beautiful from up here, but they all knew what waited for them down below. The ship landed on a flat area of stone at a place the humans called a spaceport. The engines powered down, and for a moment there was only silence inside the vessel. Then the door began to open, letting in the air of Earth. Felt the pressure change immediately. The atmosphere was thick and heavy, filled with oxygen and other gases. His personal environmental suit worked harder to protect him. The gravity pulled at his body with invisible hands, making every movement an effort. When the door was fully open, the council leaders saw their first human up close. He was waiting for them at the bottom of the ramp, standing perfectly still. He was tall, with brown skin and black hair cut very short. He wore simple clothes in dark colors that fit close to his powerful body. When he saw them appearing in the doorway, he showed his teeth in a wide display. Turned bright orange with alarm and grabbed arm. "He is showing his teeth. Is this a threat display? Is he warning us away?" Held up one of his hands to calm the smaller being. "No, I read about this in the preparation files. Humans show their teeth when they are happy. It is called a smile. It is a friendly gesture, not a threatening one." But he has so many teeth, whispered, and they are so sharp. Did not answer. He was thinking the same thing himself. The human walked up the ramp toward them. His steps were heavy on the metal surface. The gravity of Earth was strong, stronger than on most inhabited worlds, but he moved as if it was nothing at all. His muscles worked smoothly under his skin. He was clearly a being built for this harsh environment. "Welcome to Earth," he said. His voice was deep and carried well through the thick air. "I am Commander James. I will be your host during your visit to our world." Stepped forward. His legs felt weak under the heavy gravity, but he tried very hard not to show it. "Thank you, Commander. I am High Counselor of the Galactic Federation. These are my fellow council members. We are honored to visit your world." "The honor is mine," said Commander. His smile never wavered. "Please come inside. We have prepared rooms for you where you can rest and recover from your journey. I know Earth's conditions can be difficult for other species." They walked into a large building made of metal and glass. The air inside was cooler and easier to breathe, and felt a little better immediately. The humans had clearly adjusted the atmosphere inside this building to be safer for their guests. This was a kind gesture that appreciated. Commander led them down a long hallway with smooth walls and soft lighting. "Your rooms have been set up with your specific needs in mind," he said as they walked. "Counselor, your chamber has reduced gravity and a specialized atmosphere that matches your home world. Counselor, your room has the correct temperature and humidity for your species. We have done our best to make you comfortable." Clicked her mandibles in a pattern that indicated approval. "You have done much research about us, Commander." "Of course," said Commander. "We want you to be comfortable here. You have traveled a very long way to visit us. It would be rude not to prepare properly for your arrival." They reached a large room with many soft chairs arranged in a circle. Windows showed a view of the world outside, where strange green plants grew everywhere. Had read about these in the files. Humans called them trees. On his world, nothing so large could grow. The radiation from his home star was too weak to support such massive plants. "Please rest here for a while," said Commander. "I will return soon. I just need to eat my midday meal, and then we can begin our diplomatic discussions." "Eat," said, "You have not eaten yet today." Commander made a small sound that recognized from the files as laughter. It was a strange noise coming from somewhere deep in his chest. "Oh, I ate this morning, but humans need to eat several times each day. We have fast metabolisms." "Several times," turned a shade of yellow that meant confusion. "How many times exactly?" "Usually 3 main meals plus some smaller ones in between. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, sometimes snacks." Commander moved his shoulders in a gesture called a shrug. "We burn a lot of energy. Our bodies need constant fuel." The council members looked at each other with concern. Species only needed to eat once every few days, absorbed energy directly from starlight, and did not need to eat at all in the traditional sense. The idea of eating multiple times in a single rotation of a planet was strange and a little disturbing. "May we observe your meal?" asked. He was curious about human customs, and understanding them would help with the diplomatic process. "We wish to learn about your culture. Watching you eat would be educational for us." Commander looked surprised by the request, but then his smile returned even wider than before. "Of course. You can join me in the dining area. I was just going to have a simple lunch, nothing fancy." They followed him to another room. This one had a table made of some kind of dark wood and several chairs around it. Commander sat down at one end and pressed a button on the wall next to him. "I'll just have my usual," he said to someone could not see. A few moments later, a door on the far side of the room opened. A young human came in carrying a tray made of shiny metal. On the tray were several items that did not recognize at all. There was a round thing made of some kind of grain, cut in half horizontally. Inside it were layers of other substances in different colors. Some were red, some green, some brown, and some white. There was also a pile of thin yellow sticks that glistened slightly, and there was a container made of clear material filled with a dark brown liquid from which small clouds of steam rose gently. "Thank you," Commander said to the young human, who left the room quickly without speaking. The council members gathered around the table, keeping their distance from the food, leaned forward to examine the items more closely. "What is this food, Commander?" she asked. Her voice was very careful. "Just a sandwich," said Commander. He sounded casual, as if this were the most ordinary thing in the galaxy. "Some bread, meat, cheese, lettuce, tomato, and mustard. These yellow things are French fries. They are potatoes that have been cut into strips and cooked in oil. And this drink is coffee." "Meat," said the word as if it were something terrible. "You eat meat?" "Yes, meat from a cow." Commander picked up the sandwich with both hands. "Cows are animals we raise for food. This particular meat is called beef." The council members watched in complete silence as Commander brought the sandwich to his mouth. He opened his jaws wide, wider than would have thought possible. His teeth, white and sharp like the teeth of a predator, came together on the food with a sound that echoed in the quiet room. He tore off a large piece and began to chew. Felt his hearts, all three of them, beat faster in his chest. He could hear the sounds of Commander's teeth crushing the food. He could see the muscles of the human's jaw working hard under his skin. It was violent. It was brutal. It was the feeding behavior of a top predator. And it was only the beginning of what they were about to witness. Commander swallowed his first bite of the sandwich. The council members watched his throat move as the food went down into his body, pushed along by powerful muscles they could see working under his skin. Made a small sound of distress that she quickly tried to hide. "Is something wrong?" Commander asked. He picked up one of the yellow sticks with his fingers and put it in his mouth. "You all look a little uncomfortable." "We are fine," said quickly. "Please continue your meal. We are just observing." "What are those yellow sticks made of?" asked. His gaseous body was moving strangely, parts of him swirling and shifting as if he was deeply agitated. "These are French fries," said Commander. "They are made from potatoes. Potatoes are a vegetable that grows underground. We dig them up, cut them into these strips, and cook them in hot oil until they turn golden brown and crispy." "Oil," said. "You mean the liquid that burns? You cook your food in fire liquid." "Well, the oil doesn't burn at the temperature we use for cooking," Commander said. He ate several more of the yellow sticks as he spoke. "It just makes the potatoes crispy on the outside. It's a very common way to prepare food." Leaned forward to examine the French fries more closely. Her mandibles clicked in a pattern that recognized as scientific curiosity mixed with horror. "How hot is this oil when you cook with it?" she asked. Commander thought about it for a moment. "Oh, around 180 degrees Celsius. Maybe a bit hotter depending on what you're frying. Some recipes call for 200 degrees. There was complete silence in the room. 180 degrees Celsius. On most of the council members' home worlds, that temperature would be instantly lethal. Their bodies would break down, dissolve, or burn if exposed to such heat. And this human was casually eating food that had been cooked in liquid at that temperature. Commander took another large bite of his sandwich. Some red liquid dripped from the edge and ran down his fingers. "Sorry about that," he said, wiping his hand and mouth with a thin piece of paper that he then set aside. "Tomatoes are really juicy. They always make a mess." Skin turned a pale shade that had never seen before on any member of his species. "That is not blood?" he asked in a very small voice. "What? No," Commander laughed, that strange rumbling sound from deep in his chest. "It's just tomato juice. Tomatoes are a fruit. Well, technically they're a fruit, but we use them like a vegetable in cooking. They're red because of a pigment in them, nothing to do with blood." He continued eating. Each bite was accompanied by sounds of tearing, crushing, and chewing. The council members watched, unable to look away even though they wanted to. There was something horrible and fascinating about watching this predator consume its food. "This bread," said slowly, trying to focus on something that seemed less violent. "How is it made?" "We take grain and grind it into a fine powder called flour," Commander explained between bites. "Then we add water, yeast, salt, and some other ingredients depending on the recipe. The yeast is actually a tiny living organism. When we add it to the dough, it eats the sugars in the flour and produces gas. That gas makes the bread rise and become fluffy. Then we bake it in an oven at high temperature." "You eat living organisms," sounded absolutely horrified. "Living things are inside that bread." "The yeast dies when we bake the bread. The heat kills it." Commander took another bite and chewed thoughtfully. "Don't worry, the bread isn't alive anymore by the time we eat it. The yeast served its purpose and then it died." This information did not make anyone feel better. They were still watching a predator eat another organism, even if that organism was already dead. Commander picked up the container of dark liquid. He brought it to his lips and drank deeply, tilting his head back. Steam rose from the surface of the liquid even as he poured it into his mouth. "What is the temperature of that drink?" asked. His voice was higher than normal. "Not sure exactly," Commander said after swallowing. "Probably around 60 or 70 degrees Celsius. It's starting to cool down now. I like my coffee hot, so I usually drink it quickly before it gets cold." 60 or 70 degrees Celsius. Species could not survive in water warmer than 40 degrees. Anything hotter would cook their internal organs. And this human was pouring that temperature directly into his body as if it were nothing unusual. "The drink is very dark," observed. "What is it made of exactly?" "Coffee beans. They're actually seeds from a plant called the coffee plant." Commander took another drink. "We roast the beans at very high temperatures until they turn dark brown. Then we grind them up into a fine powder. Then we pour hot water through the ground beans and the water extracts all the flavors and chemicals. One of those chemicals is caffeine. That's a stimulant. It helps me stay alert and focused." A stimulant was now a shade of gray that indicated deep fear. "You put stimulant chemicals into your body, on purpose." "Many humans do it every day. It's extremely common." Commander smiled and held up his container. "Most adults have at least 1 cup of coffee in the morning. Some of us have more. I probably have about 4 cups before the middle of the day, and then I switch to tea in the afternoon." The council members looked at each other with wide eyes. 4 doses of a stimulant before midday. And humans thought this was normal behavior. They did not consider it strange at all. Commander finished his sandwich and pushed the empty plate aside. Then he reached across the table to a small container that had not noticed before. "Would anyone like some hot sauce?" he asked. "I always put a little on my fries." "Hot sauce," repeated. "What is that?" "It's a sauce made from peppers, very spicy." Commander opened the small container and poured a red substance onto his remaining French fries. The sauce was thick and bright red, almost the color of blood. "It has capsaicin in it. That's what makes it hot and spicy." "Capsaicin," said. She was accessing her memory banks, pulling up information from her studies. "I know this word. Is that not a chemical defense that plants use to stop animals from eating them? A weapon the plant uses to cause pain to any creature that tries to consume it." "That's right," Commander said. He ate a French fry covered in the red substance. His face changed color slightly, becoming redder around the cheeks. Small drops of moisture appeared on his forehead. "Wow, this batch is really strong. Good stuff." "You are eating a chemical weapon," said flatly. "You are voluntarily consuming a substance that is designed to cause pain." Commander laughed again. "I guess you could call it that if you wanted to, but humans actually like the taste of spicy food. Some people eat peppers that are much, much hotter than this. There are competitions to see who can eat the hottest peppers." "But why?" asked. Her voice was full of confusion and distress. "Why would anyone eat something that causes them pain?" It's not really pain, Commander said, eating another spicy fry. Well, it is pain, but it's a good kind of pain. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. The spiciness triggers something in our brains that releases chemicals that make us feel happy. So we enjoy the sensation. We seek it out. The council members did not understand. They could not possibly understand. No sane species in the galaxy would willingly eat things that caused them pain. It went against every survival instinct that evolution had given them. Commander finished his fries, every last one covered in the red chemical weapon. Then he pressed the button on the wall again. "I think I'll have some dessert," he said cheerfully. "Something sweet to finish the meal." A few minutes later, the young human returned with another tray. This time, the tray held a small bowl containing something white with dark chunks scattered throughout it. "Ice cream with chocolate chips," Commander said happily. "My favorite dessert, the perfect end to a good lunch." "Ice cream?" asked weakly. His skin was now shifting between multiple shades of fear and confusion. "It's made from milk. We freeze the milk with sugar and flavorings until it becomes solid, then we scoop it into bowls like this." Commander picked up a small metal tool and used it to scoop some of the white substance into his mouth. "This kind has chocolate in it. Chocolate makes everything better." "Milk from what animal?" asked. "A cow, same as the meat in my sandwich." So the humans drank the body fluids of the same animals they ate. They consumed every part of these creatures in different ways. Felt his stomach turn uncomfortably inside him. "And what is chocolate?" asked. She seemed determined to understand, even though each answer made things worse. "Chocolate comes from a plant called the cacao tree," Commander explained as he ate the ice cream. "It's made from the seeds of that plant. We ferment the seeds for several days, then dry them, then roast them at high temperatures, then grind them up and process them into chocolate. It's quite a complicated process. And here's an interesting fact. Chocolate is actually toxic to some earth animals like dogs. It can kill them, but humans can eat it perfectly safely." "Toxic," repeated. "You eat something that is toxic to other creatures on your own planet, something that would kill other animals." "Just to some animals, not all of them." Commander seemed completely unconcerned by this information. "Humans can eat a lot of things that would hurt other species. Onions, garlic, grapes, avocados, macadamia nuts. All of these can be dangerous or even deadly to certain animals, but they're completely fine for us. Our bodies can handle them." The ice cream was very cold. So cold that small clouds of vapor rose from it in the warm air of the room. Commander ate it quickly, spoonful after spoonful, before it could melt. "Does the extreme cold not hurt your mouth and throat?" asked. "Your internal tissues?" "Sometimes if I eat too fast, I get what we call a brain freeze. That's when the cold causes blood vessels in my head to constrict suddenly. It hurts a little." Commander ate another spoonful. "But it goes away quickly, just a few seconds of discomfort." A brain freeze. The cold food caused pain in his brain, and he still ate it. He still enjoyed it. He considered a few seconds of pain in his brain to be an acceptable price for the pleasure of eating frozen food quickly. Commander finished his ice cream and set down the empty bowl. He sat back in his chair with a satisfied expression on his face. "That was good," he said. "Simple meal, but very satisfying. I feel ready to tackle the afternoon now." The council members sat in stunned silence. They had just watched a single being consume animal flesh torn apart by sharp teeth, food cooked in burning oil, boiling stimulant chemicals, a plant's defensive chemical weapon, frozen animal fluids mixed with substances toxic to other creatures, and all of it processed with heat and cold that would kill most beings in the galaxy. And he called it a simple meal. The silence in the room stretched on for a long, uncomfortable moment. Commander looked at the council members with a curious expression on his face. He seemed to notice that something was wrong, but he clearly did not understand what it could be. "Are you all feeling all right?" he asked. "You look a little pale. Well, some of you do. I'm honestly not sure what pale looks like for all your different species, but you seem uncomfortable. Tried to speak. His mouth felt very dry despite the humid atmosphere in the room. Commander, that meal was very educational. We learned much about human customs and biology. I'm glad you found it interesting. The human stood up from his chair. His movements were smooth and powerful, showing no sign of strain from the heavy gravity or the large meal he had just consumed. Now, shall we begin our diplomatic discussions? I believe we have much to talk about regarding trade agreements and cultural exchange. The council members rose from their seats slowly. Their legs were not steady. The combination of heavy gravity and emotional shock made every movement difficult. Nearly fell and had to grab his arm to help him stay upright. His skin was changing colors rapidly, cycling through shades of fear, confusion, shock, and something close to panic. Perhaps, said carefully, choosing his words with great care, we could have a short break first. The journey here was very long, and we have not fully adjusted to your planet's conditions. We need a little time to rest and recover our strength. Commander nodded understandingly. Of course. Take all the time you need. I should have thought of that myself. Your rooms are ready and you can rest there for as long as necessary. I'll have someone show you the way. A young human woman appeared at the doorway. She was smaller than Commander, with yellow hair and blue eyes that seemed to catch the light. Her smile was just as full of sharp white teeth as his was. Please follow me, she said in a friendly voice. I'll take you to your quarters. The council members walked behind her through the building, moving slowly and carefully. None of them spoke. They were all thinking about what they had just witnessed, trying to process the horror they had seen. When they reached the corridor where their rooms were located, the young woman stopped and turned to face them. If you need anything at all, just press the button by the door of your room. Food, water, medical assistance, anything. Someone will come help you right away. Thank you, said. The council members went into their separate rooms, but only a few minutes passed before contacted through their personal communication devices. We must speak, she said. Her voice was tense. All of us, right now in private. They gathered in his room. It was designed specifically for his comfort, with low light and a warm, humid atmosphere. The others had to adjust their personal environmental suits to protect themselves from conditions that found pleasant. What we just saw in there began without any greeting or preamble. Her mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in her species. That was not normal. That cannot be normal. It was completely normal, said. Her silver face was darker than usual, as if reflecting her internal turmoil. For humans, it was completely normal. That is exactly the problem we are facing. They eat flesh, said. His skin was a sick shade of green that indicated he was close to physical illness. They tear it apart with their teeth. They cook their food in burning oil at temperatures that would kill us. They drink boiling poison and call it coffee. They eat chemical weapons for pleasure and say the pain feels good. And they do all of this multiple times every single day, added. His form was unstable, parts of his gaseous body breaking away and reforming constantly. 3 main meals, he said, plus smaller ones. How much destruction does a single human cause just by eating? How many animals die? How many plants are consumed? Moved to the window of his room. Outside, he could see more humans walking around in the open air. They moved confidently through their deadly environment, breathing the oxygen-rich atmosphere and walking under the dangerous radiation of their sun. Some of them were eating as they walked, consuming food from packages they held in their hands. He watched one human bite into a red fruit. Juice ran down her chin, and she wiped it away without concern. I have read many reports about Earth, said quietly, still looking out the window. I thought I understood what this planet was. I thought I was prepared for what we would find here, but I was wrong. I did not understand at all. Tell us what the report said, requested. Perhaps we can help each other make sense of this. turned to face his colleagues. Earth is classified in galactic records as a Class 12. That is nearly the highest classification possible. The gravity is approximately 20% higher than the galactic standard. The atmosphere contains nearly 21% oxygen, which is extremely dangerous. Too much oxygen makes everything more flammable. It makes fires burn hotter and spread faster. "We knew all of this before we came," said. "Yes, but there is more, much more." Took a deep breath of the controlled air in his room. "The weather on Earth is violent beyond imagination. They have storms that produce winds fast enough to destroy buildings. They have earthquakes that shake the ground and collapse structures. They have volcanoes that spew molten rock from the core of their planet. They have floods and droughts and ice storms. The temperature changes dramatically between seasons, sometimes by 50 degrees or more." The others listened in tense silence. "But the most important thing," continued, "is what has happened to life on this planet over its history. Life on Earth has been destroyed 5 separate times, 5 mass extinction events. Each time nearly everything on the planet died. Each time only a small percentage of species survived. And each time life came back. It evolved again. It grew stronger, more dangerous, more determined to survive no matter what." "And humans?" asked quietly. "Humans evolved in this crucible of death," said. His voice was barely above a whisper now. "Their ancestors survived all of it. The disasters, the predators, the competition with other species. They ate whatever they could find, whatever they could catch, whatever they could kill. Plants, animals, insects, things that would kill most other life forms in the galaxy. They adapted to everything. Nothing could stop them. They are apex predators," said. "The top of the food chain on a—" "More than that," shook his head slowly. "They are apex predators who have conquered their entire planet. They are the most successful, most adaptable, most unstoppable species their world has ever produced, and they did it by being willing to eat anything and survive anything." The room was very quiet. "What do we do now?" asked. His voice was small and frightened. "How do we negotiate with beings like this? How do we make sure they do not decide to look at us as just more food?" "They do not eat intelligent beings," said quickly. "I am absolutely certain of that. Their ethical codes would not allow it. They have laws against such things. Their ethical codes also allow them to keep animals in cages specifically to kill and eat them later," pointed out. "To burn food with fire while it is still alive. To drink the blood of trees and the milk of their prey. How do we know where they draw their lines?" "That was not blood," said. "He told us it was just tomato juice." "It looked exactly like blood to me. How do we know the difference? How do we know what they will and will not consume?" The argument was interrupted by a sound from outside the window. They all turned to look. More humans were gathering in an open area near the building. Some of them had started a fire in a metal container. Flames rose into the air, dancing and flickering in the wind. "What are they doing out there?" asked. His voice was full of fear. Watched the scene carefully. The humans were putting pieces of meat on metal sticks and holding them over the flames. The smell of cooking flesh drifted through the air and reached them even inside the building. "They are cooking outside," said. "I read about this custom in the files. They call it a barbecue. It is considered a social activity. They enjoy doing it together in groups." "They are burning animal bodies over an open flame," said. "In public, in the open air, where anyone can see them doing it. It is normal for them. They find it pleasurable." The files said that humans often socialize while preparing and consuming food together. One of the humans outside laughed loudly. He had a bottle in his hand containing some kind of liquid. He drank from it, and then he poured some of the liquid onto the fire. The flames roared higher, nearly twice their previous height. The other humans around him cheered and clapped their hands. "That human just made the fire bigger," said. His voice was unsteady. "On purpose, while standing right next to it, while surrounded by other humans, they all seem happy about this." "Humans sometimes use alcohol in their cooking," explained, remembering the files. They also drink alcohol for recreational purposes. It changes how their brains work. They say it makes them feel more relaxed and happy. Alcohol is a toxic substance, said. It poisons cells. It damages organs. Consuming it is objectively harmful to biological life. Not to humans. Well, it is toxic to them, but only in large amounts. In small amounts, they enjoy the effects. They have been consuming alcohol for thousands of years. Their bodies have partially adapted to it. They poison themselves deliberately to feel relaxed. Mandibles were clicking very fast now. Did not have a good answer for that question. The humans outside continued their barbecue. They ate meat directly off the sticks while it was still hot, tearing at it with their teeth just as Commander had done. They drank their toxic beverages from bottles and laughed at things the council members could not hear. They seemed completely happy and at peace. "I do not think I can stay here any longer," said suddenly. "I do not feel safe on this planet. Every moment I stay here, I feel more afraid." "The humans have been nothing but kind and welcoming to us," pointed out. "Commander treated us with respect and courtesy. He adjusted conditions in this building to keep us comfortable. He has done nothing threatening." "Commander ate an animal right in front of us," replied. "He ate it happily. He seemed to enjoy watching us watch him eat. What if he decides he wants to try something different for dinner? What if he decides one of us looks interesting?" "He will not eat us." "How can you possibly know that?" Skin was flashing through colors too fast to identify. "You cannot know. None of us can know. These beings are predators. They evolved to hunt and kill. They still have the teeth and jaws and digestive systems for it. They still have the instincts. The only thing holding them back is their choice not to eat us. What if they change their minds?" "Raises a valid concern," said. "Not necessarily about being eaten, but about being here at all. This planet is not safe for our kind. These beings are not safe to be around. We should seriously consider leaving as soon as possible." "We cannot simply leave," said firmly. "We came here for important diplomatic purposes. If we leave now, suddenly and without good reason, we will insult the humans. We will damage relations between our civilizations. And the very last thing any of us should want is to make predators like this angry with us." Outside the window, one of the humans at the barbecue had picked up a smaller human, a child. He lifted the child up onto his shoulders. The child laughed joyfully and grabbed handfuls of the adult's hair. The adult pretended to stumble and fall over, and all the other humans laughed with them. They seemed so normal from a distance, so friendly and warm, but could not forget the sound of Commander's teeth tearing through flesh. He could not forget the sight of the human consuming chemical weapons and toxins and boiling liquids as if they were the most ordinary things in the universe. "We will stay one more day," decided finally. "We will be polite and respectful. We will show proper diplomatic courtesy, and then we will find an appropriate reason to leave." The others agreed, though none of them looked happy about it. It was not a good plan, but it was the only plan they had. None of them slept well that night. The sounds of Earth kept them awake no matter how hard they tried to rest. Wind howling past the building. Insects making strange noises in the darkness. Distant calls from animals they could not identify. And somewhere in the building, the sounds of humans moving around, talking to each other, eating. Always eating. Morning came far too soon. The light from Earth's dangerously bright sun filled the sky with colors that hurt eyes even through the filtered windows. He had barely managed to close his eyes and rest before a human knocked on his door. "Good morning, High Counselor," the young woman from yesterday said when opened the door. Her smile was as bright and full of teeth as ever. "I hope you were able to rest. Commander invites you and the other council members to join him for breakfast." Breakfast, the first meal of the day, felt his stomach tighten with dread at the thought of watching another feeding session. "I am not hungry," he said. "I do not need to eat." "That's perfectly fine. You don't have to eat anything yourself." The young woman's smile did not waver. "The commander mentioned that you seemed interested in observing human customs yesterday. He thought you might want to see what a typical human breakfast looks like, but there's no pressure. It's entirely your choice." Considered refusing, but refusing might seem rude. It might seem suspicious. And above all else, they needed to maintain good relations with the humans until they could find a proper excuse to leave. "I will come," he said reluctantly. "Let me inform the other council members." They gathered before going to meet Commander. They all looked tired. They all looked frightened. The night had clearly been difficult for everyone. "Remember our plan," said quietly. "We must be polite. We must not offend them in any way. We just need to get through one more day and then we can leave." They walked to the dining area together. Commander was already there, sitting at the table just as he had been yesterday. But this time, the collection of food in front of him was even more alarming. There were round, flat things stacked on top of each other, covered in a thick brown liquid that oozed down the sides. There were strips of some kind of cooked meat, shiny with grease and fat. There were pale yellow lumps that steamed gently, giving off a strange smell. There was bread, toasted until it was dark brown and slightly burned. There was a bowl of something red and lumpy. And of course, there was the dark coffee in a large container. "Good morning, everyone," Commander said cheerfully when he saw them enter. "I hope you managed to sleep. Please sit down, make yourselves comfortable. Don't mind me, I'm just having my breakfast." The council members sat at the table, keeping as much distance from the food as they politely could. They tried not to stare, but their eyes kept being drawn to the disturbing display before them. "What is all of this?" asked. Her voice was carefully neutral, betraying none of her inner horror. "Standard American breakfast," Commander said happily. "These are pancakes with maple syrup." He pointed at the round, flat things covered in brown liquid. "This is bacon, the strips of greasy meat. These are scrambled eggs, the pale yellow lumps, toast with butter and strawberry jam, the burned bread and the bowl of red lumpy substance, and coffee to wash it all down, of course." "Eggs," repeated. "Those come from a bird." "From a chicken, specifically," Commander said. He used a metal tool to scoop some of the yellow eggs onto his plate. "Chickens are birds we raise for both their eggs and their meat. We take the eggs before they can hatch into baby chickens, and then we cook them in various ways. Lots of protein, very nutritious." He was eating unborn animals, the reproductive cells of a bird, felt dizzy and had to grip the edge of the table to steady himself. Commander cut into his stack of pancakes with a metal knife. The brown liquid oozed across his plate like blood. "This maple syrup comes from trees," he explained as he cut. "Maple trees, specifically. We make cuts in the bark of the tree and collect the sap that flows out. Then we boil the sap for a long time until most of the water evaporates and it becomes thick and sweet." "You drink the blood of trees," said flatly. "You wound them and collect their fluids." "Sap, not blood. Trees don't have blood exactly. But yes, I suppose that's one way to describe what we do." Commander ate a large bite of pancake. The syrup stuck to his lips and he licked it off with his tongue, which was pink and disturbingly muscular. "It's very delicious. Humans have been doing it for hundreds of years." The bacon made crackling sounds when Commander bit into it. Fat glistened on his fingers as he picked up each strip. He wiped them on a thin piece of cloth without seeming concerned about the grease at all. "This bacon," said, "does it come from the same animal as the meat in your sandwich yesterday? The cow?" "No, this is from a pig," Commander said. He ate another strip of bacon in 2 quick bites. "Different animal entirely. We eat many different animals. Cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, fish, sheep, goats, deer, ducks, rabbits." "How many species do humans eat in total?" asked. His skin was a pale, sickly yellow. Commander thought about this question seriously for a moment. "Honestly, hundreds at minimum, probably thousands if you count all the different kinds of fish and shellfish and other sea creatures. We eat insects in some cultures. We eat snakes and frogs and others. Humans are not picky eaters. If something can be eaten somewhere in the world, humans are eating it. Thousands of species. The council members sat in a silence so complete that the only sound was Commander chewing his food. He finished his eggs and started on his toast. He spread butter across the surface, butter, which now knew was processed from cow milk, and then added the red jam on top. "What exactly is jam made from?" asked, apparently hopping to find at least one thing that was not horrifying. "Fruit mostly. We cook fruit with sugar until it breaks down and becomes thick and spreadable like this." Commander took a bite of his toast. Red jam squeezed out and dripped onto his plate. "This is strawberry jam. Strawberries are a very popular fruit, sweet with just a little bit of tartness." At least jam was not made from animals. But the casual way Commander described processing and cooking everything he consumed was still deeply disturbing to watch. Everything on Earth seemed to exist solely so that humans could find ways to eat it. The meal continued. Commander ate steadily and methodically until all his food was gone. Then he drank the rest of his coffee in several long swallows. "That was excellent," he said, patting his stomach with one hand. "Now I have energy to get through the morning. I always feel better after a good breakfast." Looked at the empty plates, scraped clean of all food. He looked at Commander's satisfied smile, showing all those predator teeth. He looked at his fellow council members, all of whom seemed only moments away from either panic or physical illness. "Commander," said very carefully, "I would like to ask you some questions about human diet in general, for our official records and to help us understand your species better." "Of course, ask me anything you want to know." "How much food does an average human eat in a single day?" Commander considered the question. "It varies depending on the person, their size, and their activity level. The average human needs about 2,000 calories per day. That's a measurement of energy content. Some people need more, some need less. Athletes or people doing heavy physical labor might eat 3,000 or 4,000 calories daily. Some extreme athletes eat even more than that when they're training. And this food comes from many different sources." "Yes, as I mentioned. Plants, animals, fungi, processed foods of various kinds. Humans are omnivores, which means we can digest and extract nutrition from almost anything organic. It's one of our biological advantages. When our ancient ancestors were still evolving millions of years ago, being able to eat such a wide variety of foods helped them survive in many different environments." "When you say humans can eat almost anything," said, "what exactly do you mean by that?" "Well, there are some things we cannot digest properly, and there are certainly things that are poisonous to us, but most organic matter that exists in the galaxy we can probably eat if we prepare it correctly. Humans are very creative about finding ways to make things edible." Commander laughed. "There are even some humans who have eaten things that were never meant to be food at all. Leather, wood, metal, glass. It's not healthy, but it usually doesn't kill them. Human digestive systems are remarkably tough." "Metal," repeated in barely contained horror. "Humans can eat metal objects and survive." "There are people who swallow metal objects for entertainment," Commander confirmed. "Swords, razor blades, that kind of thing. It's a rare skill, and I definitely don't recommend trying it, but yes, some humans can do it. Our stomachs produce very strong acid that can break down a lot of different materials." Thought about this. Humans could eat metal. They could survive swallowing sharp objects. Their bodies were so thoroughly adapted to consuming everything that even things which were not food would not necessarily kill them. "I have another question," said, "about human physical endurance." "Go ahead." "How long can a human survive without eating any food at all?" Commander's expression became more serious. "That depends on the individual person and the conditions they're in. Generally speaking, a healthy human with access to water can survive about 3 weeks without any food, sometimes longer. We store energy in our bodies as fat, and our systems can use that stored energy when no food is available. There are documented cases of humans surviving even longer than 3 weeks in extreme situations. 3 weeks without food. Most of the council member species would die within days of not eating. Humans could go for weeks and still survive. And without water? Asked. That's more dangerous, Commander admitted. About 3 days without any water intake, less if conditions are hot or dry. Water is essential for all our bodily functions. We can't store it the way we store fat, but 3 days is long enough to find water in most environments if you know what you're doing. 3 days without water, in conditions that would kill most galactic species within hours. One more question, Commander, said slowly, as if she was not sure she wanted to hear the answer. What is the most dangerous thing a human has ever voluntarily eaten? The commander thought about this for a long moment, his brow furrowing in concentration. That's actually a really hard question to answer. There's a fish called fugu that's extremely poisonous. If it's not prepared exactly correctly by a trained expert, it kills you. The poison causes total paralysis while you're still conscious, but some humans consider fugu a great delicacy and seek it out specifically. They eat it knowing it could kill them. His voice was barely audible. Yes, for some people the danger is part of the appeal. It makes the experience more exciting. Commander shrugged. Same with very hot peppers. Some people try to eat the hottest peppers ever grown. Peppers so hot they cause severe pain, vomiting, even hospitalization. People do it as a challenge. Felt something fundamental break inside him. A final piece of understanding clicked into place about what humans truly were. Thank you for answering our questions so thoroughly, Commander, he said. His voice sounded strange and distant to his own ears. I believe we have learned a great deal. I'm happy to help. Understanding each other is the first step toward friendship. Commander stood up from the table. Now, are you ready to begin our diplomatic discussions? We have a lot to cover today. I looked at his colleagues. They all had the same expression in their eyes, fear, deep, primal, overwhelming fear. I believe we need a little more time. There is something we must discuss among ourselves first. Would you please excuse us? Of course, take all the time you need. Commander's smile was as warm and friendly as ever. I'll be in the meeting room when you're ready. No rush at all. He walked out of the dining area. His footsteps were heavy on the floor, the confident stride of an apex predator in its own territory. The council members sat frozen in place for a long time after he was gone. We are leaving, said the moment they were all back in his room with the door sealed shut. Right now, immediately, I will not spend another hour on this planet. I completely agree, said. Her mandibles were clicking in patterns of extreme distress. Staying here any longer would be foolish. Every moment we remain puts us at greater risk. Walked to the window again. Outside, the humans were continuing their normal daily activities. Some of them were exercising in the open area, running in circles, jumping, lifting heavy objects above their heads for no apparent reason. Others were driving metal vehicles at speeds that looked terrifying. A few were actually climbing on the outside of buildings, going up and down on ropes attached to their bodies. If we leave suddenly and without a proper reason, said, the humans will know something is wrong. They will wonder what we saw. They might even be offended. Let them be offended, replied. I would rather risk offending them from a safe distance than stay here and risk whatever might happen. I would rather be a living coward than a dead diplomat, added. We can send our apologies by long-range communication once we are safely away. They are not going to harm us, insisted, though her voice was weaker now. You do not know that. Skin was cycling through colors of fear almost too fast to follow. You cannot possibly know that. Did you hear what Commander told us? These creatures eat everything, hundreds of species, thousands of different living things. They eat metal and poison fish and things that cause them pain on purpose. They consider danger entertainment. And they consider all of this completely normal, added. To them, what we witnessed was an ordinary meal, a simple breakfast. They wake up every day and consume things that would kill any reasonable species, and they think nothing of it at all. Turned from the window to face his colleagues. I have made my decision. We will leave, but we will do it properly. I will tell Commander that we have received an emergency message from our home system. A political crisis or natural disaster or something else that requires our immediate return. It will be a lie, but it is a necessary one to avoid damaging diplomatic relations. What kind of emergency specifically? Asked. I will say there has been an unexpected development that requires the High Counselor's presence. I will be vague about the details but insistent about the urgency. We will apologize profusely. We will promise to reschedule our visit or to welcome a human delegation to one of our worlds instead. And then we will leave this planet as quickly as possible and never, ever return. No one argued with this plan. They were all too relieved to hear that they would be leaving soon. Contacted Commander through the room's communication system. He took a deep breath and tried to make his voice sound calm and official. Commander, I regret to inform you that we have just received urgent news from our home system. An emergency situation has developed that requires our immediate return. We must leave Earth as soon as possible. There was a brief pause before Commander's voice came through, sounding genuinely concerned. I'm very sorry to hear that. Is everything all right? Is there something we can do to help? Unfortunately, this is an internal matter. I cannot give you the details, but it is a situation that requires the presence of the Council. We are needed back home immediately. Of course, I understand. These things happen. I'll have your ship prepared for departure right away. Is there anything else you need? No, thank you. You have been very kind hosts. We apologize for cutting our visit short like this. Please don't apologize. Emergencies don't wait for convenient timing. I hope everything works out for you and your people. The kindness in Commander's voice made feel slightly guilty about the deception, but not guilty enough to change his mind about leaving. The council members gathered their few belongings and made their way to the landing area. They moved quickly but tried not to run. Running would look suspicious. Running might alarm the humans. They walked as fast as their shaky legs could carry them through the heavy gravity. Commander met them at their ship. Several other humans were with him, including the young woman who had guided them around the building. They all looked genuinely concerned about the council members' sudden departure. They all showed their teeth in worried smiles. I really wish you could stay longer, Commander said as the council members approached the ramp to their ship. We had so many things to discuss. Trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, scientific cooperation. There is so much our civilizations could learn from each other. Yes, there is, agreed. He was already walking up the ramp into the safety of the ship. Perhaps we can continue these discussions through long-range communication, or you could send a delegation to visit our territory instead. That would work too. Commander raised his hand in a gesture of farewell. Safe travels, High Counselor, Council members. I hope we meet again someday. Paused at the top of the ramp. He turned and looked down at Commander one last time. The human stood in the bright sunlight of his deadly world, strong and powerful and completely at ease. His eyes, the eyes of a predator species that had conquered an entire planet, watched the council members with what appeared to be genuine concern and friendship. Perhaps, said, perhaps we will send representatives to continue our discussions through communication channels. Whatever works best for your government, the door is always open. The ship door closed with a satisfying hiss of sealing mechanisms. The council members rushed to their seats and strapped themselves in with fumbling fingers. The engines began to power up. Get us off this planet, said to the pilot. Now maximum safe speed. Yes, High Counselor. The ship rose into the sky. Through the viewing windows, the council members watched Earth grow smaller beneath them. The blue oceans and green continents and gray cities shrank until they looked almost peaceful, almost safe. But they all knew the truth now. They knew what that beautiful planet really was. They knew what kind of creatures lived on its surface and called it home. When they reached the safety of open space, when the stars surrounded them and Earth was just another small dot in the darkness, finally began to calm down. His skin slowly returned to something approaching a normal color. "We made it out," he said quietly. "We actually made it out alive." "We were never in any real danger," said, but she did not sound convinced of her own words anymore. "We will need to make a full report when we return home," said. "The rest of the council and the governments of our worlds must know what we learned about the humans." Nodded slowly. He was staring out the window at the distant speck that was Earth, thinking about how to explain what they had discovered, how to put into words the horror and the awe and the primal fear that the experience had awakened in them. "Humans are not simply apex predators," he said finally, speaking slowly as he organized his thoughts. "They are something far more than that, something we have never encountered before in all our explorations of the galaxy." "What do you mean?" asked. "They are what their files call persistence predators. That is how their ancestors hunted millions of years ago before they developed technology. They did not hunt with superior speed like some predators do. They did not hunt with overwhelming strength. They hunted with endurance. They would pick a prey animal and follow it. They would walk and run after it for hours, for days if necessary. The prey would tire. The prey would need to stop and rest, but the humans would keep coming. They would never stop, never give up, never let their target escape. They would follow and follow until the prey animal collapsed from exhaustion and could no longer run, and then they would kill it." The ship was very quiet except for the hum of the engines. "But they are also gatherers," continued. "They eat plants and fungi and honey from insects and things from the water. They process food in ways we cannot imagine. They apply fire and ice and acids and chemicals to their meals. They break down anything and everything into something they can consume and extract nutrition from. And they have no fear of doing any of this," said quietly. "Worse than having no fear, they enjoy it. They seek out dangerous food specifically for the thrill. They explore deadly places for the excitement of it. They test themselves constantly against the limits of what their bodies can survive, and when they find those limits, they push past them on purpose." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth disappeared behind them, lost in the blur of transit space. "What will you put in your official report?" asked. Thought about this for a long time. He turned the question over in his mind, considering different approaches, different ways to phrase what needed to be said. "I will say that humans are friendly," he decided finally. "They welcomed us to their world warmly. They showed us kindness and genuine hospitality. They adjusted their environment to keep us safe and comfortable. They were generous and patient hosts who answered all our questions honestly." "And what else?" prompted. "And I will say that we must never, under any circumstances, make enemies of the humans." His voice was firm and certain. "Because if humans decide to hunt another species the way they once hunted their prey on Earth, they will never stop. They will follow across the stars. They will adapt to any environment. They will eat anything they need to survive and consume anything that stands in their way. They will endure any hardship, survive any disaster, overcome any obstacle. And eventually, when their target is too tired to run anymore, they will catch them." He looked at each of his fellow council members in turn. "Humans are the monsters that create," he said quietly. "The most successful, most adaptable, most absolutely unstoppable species the galaxy has ever encountered. They do not know it. They do not see themselves that way. They think they are ordinary. They think we are the unusual ones for being disturbed by things they consider normal." "So what do we recommend to the council?" asked. "We recommend making friends with them, trading with them fairly, giving them what they want within reason, keeping them satisfied and keeping them on our side. Leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. And we thank every star in the sky that when humans first met other species, they decided to extend their hands in greeting instead of using their teeth. The ship flew on through the darkness between stars. Behind them, Earth continued turning on its axis, completely unaware of the impression it had made on its visitors. Commander James stood outside the landing area for a long time after the alien ship had disappeared into the sky. He was puzzled by their sudden departure. Everything had seemed to be going so well. The council members had appeared interested in human culture. They had asked good questions. He had tried his best to make them comfortable. "Do you think we did something wrong?" asked the young aide standing next to him. "I don't know," Commander admitted. "Maybe their emergency was real, or maybe there's something about us they found disturbing." He shrugged and turned to walk back to the building. Cultural differences can be tricky. What seems perfectly normal to one species might seem strange or scary to another. "Should we try to contact them, follow up?" "Give them some time first. Let them deal with whatever emergency they have. We can reach out in a few weeks to reschedule." Commander smiled to himself. "I hope they're okay. They seemed like nice enough people. A little jumpy maybe, but nice." He walked back into the building, already thinking about what to have for lunch. Maybe a nice steak, or some spicy Thai food. He was in the mood for something with a little heat to it. Behind him, the sky was empty and blue and full of deadly radiation from the sun, just like always. The wind carried the smell of flowers and growing things and, faintly, the smoke from a barbecue somewhere in the distance. It was a beautiful day on Earth. It was just another ordinary day on that had created humanity. And somewhere out there among the stars, 5 council members were already composing their reports about the most terrifying meal they had ever witnessed, and the friendly monsters who had served it to them with smiles full of sharp, predatory teeth.